See the red button on.
Yo, the red
Okay.
button is on, which means that we are live. No intro music, no nothing. We were spending a lot of time in the green room, just really chatting,
Mhm.
building some excitement about what we're going to talk about this afternoon. So, welcome to Worship and Word Conversations. This is our Saturday afternoon, our Sabbath afternoon. Kick back, relax, put your feet up, and let's make our personal spirituality and faith practical. Let's walk this thing out, especially as we start a new week. So we're
I'm
so
dancing
excited
to the
you are
intro
hanging
that
out with
hasn't been
us.
played.
You feeling it?
I'm bopping to it. Bopping to
You
it.
bopping to the intro that hasn't been played. And this is our first Saturday afternoon back in 2 weeks.
Yeah. It
So
feels like 2 months.
it feels like a long time, which plays into what we're going to talk about today, but so well. So hop in the comments. Let us know that you're hanging out with us live or replay. Lana's
Shout out to
hanging out
Lana.
with us.
She was in
She was in the
later.
replay.
Yeah. She was in the replay. Yes, she was.
He was in the replay. So yeah, good to see our peeps back in the spot as we hang out. Our topic today. Woo, man. I'm definitely gonna get in some trouble today. Good trouble. Good trouble. We're gonna talk about grind culture and the voice of God and the tension that we deal with, man. Just living, existing in this space. All right. So Carlos, OG Carlos is with us, hanging out with us as well. Cerise is with us as well.
What's going on, guys? And
I heard you call me out.
I mean, and then I looked at the timeline. I was like, she out. Like she ain't even.
Yeah.
I was like, she with fam. Carlos says, thanks for that powerful message last night. I watched it twice to have it soak in. Yo, P, last night you really, y'all. He took us through 4 chapters.
I was trying to get my Joshua on.
He took us through chapters 2 through 6 of Joshua last night. Before we get into the grind culture, you're gonna have to do a brief recap because it was heavy. Carlos is right. Like after you were done, like we had to just like silent. We just had to say, okay, let's pray. Cerise, we missed you too. Cerise. Just go ahead and live it up. Go ahead and live it up for us. As she said, yep. Last night, Pierre, you dropped some fire. 12 stones represents everything I can't see. Then being covered by the Jordan River. We're gonna put the Jordan River there. Yeah. But I think you said Red Sea once, and so but Jordan River represents everything we cannot see, where God is standing. Listen.
I went back to read it, right? Just to make sure that I wasn't, because sometimes you hear a Bible story or you hear something on VeggieTales, or you hear something on greatest heroes of the Bible, and it's like for you that's gospel. You're like, that's not there. But this is there. Joshua chapter 4, verse 8, and the children of Israel did so just as Joshua commanded, and took up 12 stones from the midst of the Jordan, and as the Lord has spoken to Joshua, according to the number of the tribes of Israel, and carried them over with them to the place where they lodged, and laid them down there. Then Joshua set up 12 stones in the midst of the Jordan, in the place where the feet of the priests who bore the Ark of the Covenant stood, and they are still there to this day. So 12 stones on the side.
Right.
And 12 stones in the middle of the Jordan that we're about to cover up.
If that ain't prophetic. Yep, Lana, she said last night was fire. Yeah, it was. The strange place. That right there, being covered in the strange place. Knowing where God has led you and having to believe that he's going to do it again. Scratch that. Having believed he already has it done.
Because he said, oh, Chris, you're so, man, listen, I can't stand you. He says, God says, before I have given you.
Yes.
This is past tense.
Yeah.
I've already given it to you. It's already done.
That's right. Ain't that like the perfect past participle type situation? I don't even know. I don't even know the grammatical construct. What I do know is that we just need to open our mouths and shout for the thing that he already has. And it made me, you know what? It also made me backtrack because I was talking. We were talking about the particular goal, that we had in mind, and June ain't even here yet. Ooh. So and you remember I had to kind of like, yeah, it was a rebuke to me too. Like, listen, we ain't at the end yet.
We're not at the end.
Good afternoon, Carmela.
Yeah, we're not at the end. We're not at the. We forget.
Yeah, if I just man, and I have to be careful because sometimes there's some stuff that I want to share, and I have to ask myself, in discernment, is it because for those of us, and we're not superstitious, but we say this like, I don't want to jinx it. I don't want to say it and that, but I don't know where we got that from. But the point of, am I not disclosing it because if it doesn't work out, then it's the inquiry of, so whatever happened to, because y'all, that's happened to me before.
Yeah.
We talk about stuff in faith and like, oh, so how is, and you're just like, yeah, that ain't, and then on the other side, I also don't want to, I want to use the wisdom of Jesus when he's like, shh, be quiet. Tonight is night. But he's like, don't share the miracle just yet. Even though they're gonna share it regardless. But anyway. Delia, what's going on? Yes, you said the silence was real. It sure was. Last night. Aaron says, hey, from the family. Yep, Cerise, we're watching together because I watched last night's episode many times. Listen, and again this morning. I'm telling you, praise God for technology.
Yeah.
My kids and I were covered in a strange place for 3 years. Wow.
20.
Man. Yeah, because Cerise says, Aaron, listen, I was covered in a strange place for 2 decades. And when we think about what strange now means, strange doesn't necessarily mean negative. It's as uncomfortable as we want to make it.
Mm-hmm. I think it the pendulum swings to extremes, right?
Yeah.
To strange being fighting for my life.
Mm-hmm.
This is terrible, traumatic, overwhelming.
Yeah.
Like in a physical sense.
Mm-hmm.
And then also just even kind of a mental discomfort of not knowing or feeling uncertain or apprehensive.
Yeah.
That strange place can swing. Like if I take the wrong step here, I'm physically gonna die. I'm attacked. Somebody's trying to get me.
Yeah.
So I look like everything is okay on the outside, but on the inside, there's this turmoil and this uncertainty that I'm wrestling with.
Hey, listen here. So it's crazy because the miracle just happened in Jordan. So can you imagine still the questioning of, is this going, like he just did something, but now you're in a different, like you're still in a strange place, but it's a little stranger now. And the crazy, so I just praise God for my converted auto completion, because I put in how thick, and what came up was the walls of Jericho. Praise the Lord for conversion. Listen here,
the converted algorithm.
The conversion algorithm, because back in the day, listen. So it's 2 meters thick, y'all. That's 6 feet, and 6 feet of concrete.
Right.
Like, I don't know if y'all really know what that, but no, go ahead, Pete.
Oh yeah, keep going, because I'm trying to get to the contextual piece from Joshua chapter 2. So keep going.
Okay, yeah. So 6 feet thick, 20 to 26 feet high, and I think it says here, together these two walls. Let me make sure. Together, these two walls combine to form a fortification of 32 to 41 feet high. Now, I skipped some stuff, so so apparently there's been multiple walls, but the point is, this is huge. I mean, just think about it. They had to cross Jericho. Now, I don't know how close Jericho is in in the vicinity of the walls of Jericho, but that's almost like a moat situation, right? You got to go through the river first, and then you got to get to that land. To walk around it only to see it crumble.
Bruh. Joshua chapter 2, verse 15. Then she let them down by a rope through the window, for her house was on the city wall. She dwelt on the wall.
Listen, y'all. Listen, y'all.
That's how big.
Listen. Yeah, because I remember, I don't know where I saw it, but like you got chariots, you got horses, like activity is happening on the wall.
Yeah.
It ain't just. Now, some scientists could argue, just like what they argue with the Red Sea, that the Red Sea wasn't that big. But then you read Joshua, and their account of what happened in the Red Sea is different from how scientists can kind of explain away how the Red Sea was just like this mosh pit, and it was just in the summertime, or whatever. So it just kind of dried up. Nah, walls, right, of water were stood up. Same here. Some people could probably argue, well, perhaps it was like the frequency of their shout that created some kind of, resonance in the thick walls that crumbled everything. Yeah, y'all better stop that.
Stop that.
At some point, you're gonna have to just believe that God is the one.
Yeah.
And the fact that they were terrified for their lives.
They were terrified way before they showed up.
It's weird, P. How often do I walk around the thing that God has already told me is mine? Ain't that crazy? Because they're walking around the wilderness for 40 years when they shouldn't have sent spies.
Yes.
But this time sending spies is okay. And now they're walking around the thing that is theirs. Two totally different contexts. The wilderness was not a strange land. It's a land of disobedience.
Yeah.
And yet preservation, because God was like, I still need y'all. We still gonna fulfill this promise.
Yeah, I mean, let's no, we're not going to talk about that.
Okay, you're right. It's like,
but the preservation. So the shifting definition dynamic of what we constitute as strange places, and what we were talking about last night is the strange place is literally the place between the last miracle you've seen God perform and the miracle that you're waiting for. That's the strange place. It's the place of faith, and we recognize from the book of Joshua that God stands in the space between faith, what we're waiting for, and sight, what we've already experienced. Yeah. But we all often don't talk about how God preserves us. Yeah. Because for some of us, the strange place is a place we're not supposed to be in contextually. Let's take the wilderness. Like you just said, the wilderness is strange because it's not the comfort of Egypt. God preserved them there, but it's also not the blessing of the promised land. Yeah. That they don't know what that looks like, even though they're hearing about it. They're in the middle. Yeah. So you can, in some ways, make a case for the children of Israel. Why? This is just one biblical imagination theory. Yeah. Why do they always want to go back to Egypt? Because they've seen it. God's trying to send me to a land that I have not seen. I've seen Egypt. Wow. I know what rejection in Egypt looks like. I know what slavery in Egypt looks like. I know at least we got the flesh pots of Egypt with the leeks and the onions and the cucumber and the garlic. And yes, it was slavery and oppression. That's crazy. But I knew what to expect there. Yeah. I don't know what to expect in the place where God is calling me to. And now I'm in this strange place that's not who I used to be and not who I will be.
You just open up a whole nother can of worms talking about character, who I used to be and who I will be. That's a whole nother.
That's strange, right?
Wow. So after last night, I realized I need to start speaking differently about not just my situation, but me as a person. Yeah. Because Lana says faith and uncertainty. Oh, well, what does the double arrows mean? P, help me with that, because unknown and unseen. I know. I was trying to
Listen,
break it down.
I'm going petty. What you like a UX designer? Ain't you supposed to know what like icons and symbols mean? Oh,
Yeah, you are petty. You know what? I'm gonna go to Lana's other thing. That's what I'm gonna do to get back at you. He says the breakdown of the scarlet worm. Like when you broke down the scarlet worm last night. The significance of the rope and being covered by the blood. Yeah, man. Like when you there's I can't even. Maybe it was after the show. I think forgive me for calling it a show, y'all, but after our worship experience, when you said it's in everything, like God's creation and how salvation, the design and the plan of salvation is in everything. And it just, yes. Because y'all know salvation is still a mystery, right?
Yeah.
Like we still don't fully understand, and God is still gracious enough to show it in different, even down to a scarlet. The scarlet worm?
I don't know that. See, I say scarlet worm because there's a technical name to it.
Yeah.
Kakuna Sakaf. I was like, nah, I'm just gonna call this the red worm.
The red worm.
I'm gonna find the art while we're talking. I'm gonna find the article and I'm gonna drop it in the comment section.
Okay, because I think I was calling it silkworm all last night.
Listen, that's all we know is the worm.
What's going on, Elijah? Blessings to you, man. You know, it's last night was it was a rebuke. It was rejuvenating. It was a few things for many of us, and even the prayers, y'all. Like even some of the prayers that we started praying last night.
Yeah,
it comes off different. It comes off different because it's one thing to pray in anticipation, and it's another thing to pray in the substance of the thing that is already there. That's hard to explain to me, right? But it's like it's weird. It's I don't even know how to explain it, y'all. But I just know, Dr. J was talking about this last night when when Joshua was praying for the sun to stand still. He didn't pray, God, I believe that you will. He just said, hey, son, now listen. You may not fully still understand how the world, the universe is in motion, but from what we understand right now in this modern age with the technology we have, for the sun to stand still, the rotation of the earth would have to have stopped. And I just think of him saying the thing. And then you got the other side, right? Then you got people like Elijah. When it's explained later on in the context of, is it Hebrews? Where even though he rose up on the king, Ahab and says, hey, listen, up until y'all get y'all lives together, ain't no more rain, because the scripture has said in Deuteronomy, listen, if y'all don't listen to me, it's gonna be so the promise was already there. The prayer was just waiting to be activated, right? So from one perspective, you think that he didn't really say nothing to God or pray about this with God, but when you read Hebrews, he was already in prayer, laboring for that thing, and then he shows up. So you got two different contexts where there's sometimes you just speak something and God is like, got it. And then there are other times where you got to labor before you even get out and even say something. But the point is, the promise is already there. That's the crazy thing. It's already there. It's the prayer that activates and moves the hand of God. Who's Tony Evans? He says prayer is like the connection between eternity and time. Things already exists, and prayer just makes it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Grind culture and the voice of God.
Yeah, that's what we're gonna talk about here in the voice of God and grind culture. Yo, so one part that I didn't share was so much going through 4 chapters of scripture, right? That before they moved to take on the walls of Jericho, the Joshua has a theophany. So theophany is when you experience the manifested presence of God in some way. Joshua is praying and he sees somebody that's dressed like a warrior. Now look at oh my goodness, look at the duality. Look at the dichotomy. The dichotomy is a better word of how God shows up to Moses versus how God shows up to Joshua.
Mm-hmm.
He shows up to Moses in a bush that appears like it's burning, but it's not consumed.
Yeah.
And trying to break down what's the significance of that, what that would have been to Moses,
Mm.
versus showing up to Joshua as a warrior, because Joshua is a warrior. And as he shows up, Joshua's like, whoa, hold up.
Come on.
Who you with? Why would that have made sense? Because remember, Joshua sent spies to Jericho.
Yeah.
So now he's encountering someone who, from his perspective, could be a spy for the nation they're about to invade. So that's why Joshua asked the question, whose side are you on? Our side or the enemy side? And he was like, nah, you
got me all messed up.
I'm not on none of y'all side. As the commander of the Lord's army, I have now come. Bruh, the significance of that statement, he has this experience where God literally shows up. But hold up. Chris, see, we got to get the grind culture in the voice of God.
Okay.
He does not have the theophany until after the Jordan River.
First of all, I didn't even make the connection that he had the theophany to begin with in this context, and then is after. Oh, see,
Israel crosses the Jordan, Joshua chapter 3. Destruction of Jericho is Joshua chapter 6. Immediately before that, and it came to pass. This is Joshua chapter 5. And it came to pass when Joshua was by Jericho that he lifted his eyes and looked, and behold, a man stood opposite him with his sword drawn. So he's not just the man has the sword out.
Like he ready.
The man has his sword out. And Joshua went to him and said to him, are you for us or for our adversary? So he's not just dressed in military attire. He got the sword in his hand, like it's about to happen. Yeah. Are you for us or for our adversaries? This is after the Jordan River.
Wow.
Listen, y'all, there's some pictures of God that we will not get until after we do the thing in the midst of the strange place.
Yeah.
So he said, no, like whose side you on? Our side or the enemy side, our adversary? He said, no. No.
Yeah.
But as commander of the army of the Lord, I have now come. And Joshua fell on his face to the earth and worshiped and said to him, what does my Lord say to his servant? Then the commander of the Lord's army said to Joshua, take your sandals off your foot, for the place where you stand is holy ground.
Let me tell y'all about Michael. We gotta one day to do a breakdown. Maybe next week, y'all.
Yeah.
Because there is also just this this misconception of who he is, especially when it comes to Revelation as well.
Oh
right? Is he just the messenger, right? Because an angel of the Lord is just messenger.
Yeah.
So when we talk about theophanies, these theophanies has the embodiment of God.
Yeah.
Like that's what that is, right?
Yeah.
So like you were mentioning Moses, in this case now Joshua, Abraham back in Genesis, and so Daniel.
Yeah.
Listen, y'all. So and the reason why this is amazing as I'm thinking about this is because just before your next breakthrough, you should have encountered Jesus. And here's the biggest theophany of all. Ooh. He's given us the Holy Spirit that resides in us. So there's no need. Y'all done got no need for him to try to show up in bodily form to show you a vision and to confirm what you're supposed to do, because he left that in us. Jesus, Lord, show us a sign. Showing y'all no sign.
We already have that.
You already and so for those of y'all that are walking around right now, listen, I'm speaking to myself. For those of y'all that are walking around right now, the thing that God has already shown you, and this only works for when he's shown you the thing. Let's be real. Like there are passages. Some of y'all in the wilderness right now. So y'all walking around, but y'all don't see nothing. Nan. All right. But now you're in a space where you see it, you're walking around it, and not one nan archer doesn't even shot a bow, because no weapon formed, right? Like, so you're not walking around the thing and you're just like, okay, God, what we doing? And you're looking for the external sign.
Listen,
I'm trying to tell you the external sign is he didn't give it, he didn't give it to you.
it's interesting how we make the attempt to put Jesus in a box, how we interpret how Jesus shows up in even the human context of Jesus versus the pictures in Revelation versus Hebrew scripture. But then what do we do with Isaiah, though? The government shall be upon his shoulders. Wonderful Counselor, mighty God,
Prince of Peace.
He's Father, like all of these. And you're like, oh yeah, I can see how Jesus could be all those things. Oh, but you don't see how he can be the commander of the Lord's army and the word. And
we forget when it says Michael and his angels fought.
I celebrate the fact that God is not limited by our English understanding and interpretation.
Yeah.
Like he literally winks at our ignorance and continues to work to help us understand. Like we grasping at straws, y'all, like literally grasping at straws. And God's like, all right, cool. I'm still going to work with you though. Like I'm still going to work with you. All right. Speaking of work with you, that transitions us to our conversation. No, let's take Lana's, man, before we go to grind culture.
She says the strange place sometimes becomes a place of comfort. Yes, it does. It's a place where we feel safe enough not to move in any direction. We don't go back, but we also don't go forwards.
Ooh.
And the children of Israel were there 40 years. The question I ask myself, how many years I'm spending wandering in the wilderness? You know, it's Lana, thank you for that. It's in one of the last few chapters of Steps to Christ, where she talks about there are many people who have this desire to want to be and do and submit and to be connected, but yet let's make it more personal now. Now we're not talking about the purpose and the destination. We're talking about a character now, where there's going to be a lot of us who are well-to-do wishers of being a servant and being a child of God, but something is preventing us from actually doing that. So we don't do some of the stuff that we've done anymore, but we still aren't, as Pastor Greg Fontes of Beacon Light preached, we're also not all in.
We're not all in.
We on the fence. And man, this strange place situation could be taken in so many different ways.
Man, this is like, man, that's gonna.
Speaking of different ways, grind culture.
Back in my pastoring days, we did a whole series, 17 sermon series on strange place. It'd have been a whole.
Surprised if we do part 2 next week.
So, grind culture and the voice of God. This is what we want to talk about in the time that we have left in Worship and Word Conversations, and it came up for a lot of different reasons, and I think, Chris, in the circles of people that we hang out and that we talk to, there are a lot of creatives. There are a lot of entrepreneurs. There are a lot of people with just significant gifts and looking to figure out where those gifts go and how to apply.
Yeah.
And there's this tension that we have between the external standards of how we're supposed to live our lives versus what God is saying to us at any particular time. And one of the thoughts that came to my mind last night and this morning was Jesus intentionally did things to break momentum.
Yeah.
He intentionally did things to break his own momentum. For example, he'll perform a certain miracle and everybody's hype. And it says the people wanted to take him at once and make him king. And he's like, no, I'm good. I'm out. And he would intentionally take extended times away with his disciples to rest and to recover, to connect with his Father. And like, how am I? And I get it. That is that's an ancient time period, different context, hospitality culture, spirituality and relationship with God. We're integrated into the culture, right? It was a part of, so people could literally leave where they were selling things in the marketplace and go out to the countryside and listen to Jesus. Like that was part of the culture.
Right.
How can we cultivate a space of listening to the voice of God, following what he asks us to do in the middle of this culture that we live in? Y'all, it's absolutely positively insane. Let's just give a quick example of this.
Yeah.
My kids go to public school, right? Their school is literally 5 minutes from the house. 5 minutes from the house, we drop them off, we back home. Boom, boom, boom. But what about the experience where your children don't go to a school that's in their neighborhood? Now, for a lot of us, if we attend institutional schools or private schools, they are not in our neighborhoods.
Right.
So we got to get up super early in the morning. We got to take the kids to school. We got to pick them up. There may be after school activities. There's homework. Then we're part of a ministry at church. We lead that ministry. We do things for that ministry 2 and 3 times a week. And then there's the prayer meeting situation that we go to or don't go to. And just imagine pre-COVID context. And then on Friday night, there's some rehearsal of some kind or some preparation or something going on in the church in general. And then Sabbath morning, early morning prayer, Sabbath school at 9:15, midday worship. There's some potluck or some dinner of some kind. There's either Bible Bowl or adventurers or outreach or AY or cooking class or Bible readings or whatever. And then Sunday morning, there's Pathfinders, there's, outreach, there's elders meeting, there's board meeting there. And I'm like, where? Yeah. And then on Monday, I'm back to work and I'm working the 40 and 50 hours a week and I'm, traveling and doing all of these things in almost this infinity loop. And I'm like, where in this? Because culture says I have to do this. I have to look awesome at church. I have to look awesome at home. I have to look awesome on Instagram. You got to see me working out. You got to see me with a side hustle on top of my 40 hours a week. You got to see me getting promotions at my job. You got to see that my kids are the best. You got to see me. I got to be writing a book and I got a podcast and I got a blog, and I'm the vice president of the company and I'm the leader at church and I'm doing all these. And I'm like, where though?
Yeah. Yeah.
And the culture says that we're looking at right now says, if you don't do those things, you're not serious about anything, about your life, about nothing. You're not serious about your relationship with God. And I'm like, where is the space in there in our current Western capitalistic, opportunistic, clout-driven culture? And I feel like, this is me, Chris, I feel like as the outside is opening back up, right? And as we are going back into our normal spaces, work and church and all of that, we are going to just drift back into the thing that we celebrated and took a deep breath that we were away from during the height of COVID. So, I mean, I ranted for like 8 minutes. So
no, that wasn't a rant. You painted the picture and you set it up for us to start dialoguing about this because I think that there is a juxtaposition.
Okay.
Things were simpler back then. And I think that we believe with knowledge increasing and we believe with technology that's allowing us to do phenomenal, like just achieve phenomenal and overcome phenomenal feats that we would have never been able to do. Just take the vaccine, for example. If this was 100 years ago, it would have taken years to be able to vax half the population. Like the fact that we were able to do that in 2021 is huge, right? So, but the problem is, I think we have translated our technological advancements over into the spiritual realm as well. And we think that because technology is advancing human achievement and excellence and intelligence and whatever, that it must do the same for the spiritual realm.
Oh,
Technology
boy. Oh, boy.
and our inventions and the things that we've created should break the barriers to experience God in a more intimate way, or in a more holistic way, if it's corporate or digital evangelism is a thing. It's real and it's a viable way of doing ministry. But it's as if technology is now the bedrock of how we advance, and I use advance in air quotes, y'all, spiritually, versus the spirit still being the bedrock of this thing.
You
got to look back.
You can't run past that, Chris.
Okay, all right. Okay, all right. That's just how
can't run past that.
Yeah, let's
before you come back to that, we come back to that, let me just pull a couple of these in. And Cerise, your generation did kill AY. Just so you know, y'all killed it dead. She said that culture is why my generation, Gen X, let all those programs die, because we wouldn't allow us to be driven into the ground. However, we allowed the secular things in our lives to survive and let the religious things die.
And you know, let me say this. Let me say this, Cerise. We have turned the secular into the religious.
Yeah.
I think that
Ooh.
you see, so I think so let me back up. And I could be so wrong here, because I'm not academically endowed in this arena, y'all.
I'm showing up right after you, so go ahead. Go in the door first.
There's sacred and then there's profane. Right. There's sacred, secular, the things that are totally and exclusively dedicated and used by and through God. And then there are the things which aren't. Let's just keep it very simple, right?
Yeah.
So you can have a piano. We do this all the time. You have instruments that come in, but then we dedicate that particular instrument to the full and exclusive use of God. All right. Same piano was profane or secular. Now, profane, you hear the word profane and it sounds like profanity. It's no. In this case, secular, profane, same thing, just normal, right? And I think let's even go even more basic. It's normal. It's just common. Sacred it's now more than common. It's for something that's divine and holy. All right. So let's common, holy, right?
Yeah.
You can make the common religious. And I think that what we've started to do was we try to not try to, but I think I've also I've fallen not victim, but I thought that everything that is religious has to be something that's church related, when that's not the case.
Ooh, Chris, you trying to okay.
Sunday night football is religious.
Sunday night football is religious.
Football period. Right. The meeting and the gathering, right, is a part of the religious experience.
Yeah.
Is it sacred? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And so
some people will fight you on that.
Listen, and so Cerise, let's go a little bit deeper. Let's press a little bit deeper with AY. Perhaps AY stopped being sacred. And it started to become more common, more secular. But still in its religious, we show up every day, every week at the same time. That's the religious part of it, right? Yeah. Religion is just basically a set of beliefs or practices that are just repeatedly done, right? So it's religion, but is it still sacred? And perhaps maybe that's why a lot of the panel discussions and we're really kind of drawing people in, but at the end of the day, like, what did it really do at the end? Ain't do nothing but scratch the itching ears. All right. Pete, go ahead. I'm tagging you in.
So, oh my goodness. Okay. So coming from a different angle, you talk about how we can take the regular, normal, everyday comment and turn it into the religious.
Yeah.
We've seen that in things in conservative culture that we held in high esteem, that were weird to the world around us. And because we weren't open to whatever, now we find 10, 20 years later, those things are almost become religious maxims for people who don't claim to have even a faith tradition or context. For example, 20 years ago, You walking around talking about you a vegetarian. People looking at you, and unless you were like a rock star, like a literal rock star,
right,
or celebrity,
yeah,
people thought you were weird.
yeah.
Now there's a whole like whatever food, vegetarian, Loma Linda, and whoever we had back in the day. Man, listen, Beyond Meat done came through. Mock turkey done came through. Everybody done came through. And now if people are offended, people that may not even have a context of whatever are offended when you bring up something meat related, because for them, it has become their practice of finding whatever they can. Restaurants change whole menus. It now becomes a totally different lifestyle.
Yeah.
The whole clean eating and then the exercise culture,
Right.
which has become a religion
Yep.
for so many people. So things that before we were looking to integrate into our faith community as lifestyle practices now have become religious practices.
Mm-hmm.
Like some people work out more than they like talk to their family.
Come on.
I know that's a different topic, but
Come on.
you know, they pursue the
Yeah.
the look, the meal prep, the this, the It's not even about the actual health benefits.
Yeah.
It's about the religious culture that thing has created. And another religious culture.
Wow.
And if you want to hop in on this conversation, I'm happy to send y'all a link so y'all can come in with us.
Yeah, come
Another religious culture is grind culture. So we will celebrate a person working themselves to death in the wrong area, just so we can put on top of them the endorsement but they're working hard though.
Yeah.
The culture, hustle culture, grind culture, never sleep culture, whatever. I'm sorry, I need my naps. My family will tell you if I don't nap, it's going to be a problem. I'm going to bed at night. It's going to be a problem. But that in itself has become a religion.
Yeah.
So now we're trying to keep up, because it seems like, okay, it's the church of grind culture. The same way there's still the church of football.
Yeah.
There's the church of athletics, the church of the Olympics is coming this summer. Yeah. There is the church of grind culture. And we're not listening where God is like, yo, you're doing too much. You're doing too much.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna just put this out there, Chris.
Wow.
It might be a little bit difficult for me to go back to a physical church, because, and I had this challenge when I was pastoring.
Yeah.
We doing too much, y'all.
It's a lot.
Like, it's too long.
It's a lot.
77 announcements, and everybody got something to say, and one more thing, and processional and recessional and It's like, and we don't feel like we've had church unless we have all of those things.
The very thing we should be using the technology for. Should be using the technology to get all the other stuff out the way. See, this is why back then, you know, I will say this. I know we're saying knowledge will increase, but that doesn't mean that the people back then were dumb, y'all. Let me tell you what this means.
Yeah.
You know, when I think about the fact that they were more what's the word? Not simplistic. They were more primitive. You know what I see instead of primitive? I see sustainable.
Oh, that's good. Because
they were able to take the stuff, like they were able to break down the house if they wanted to, and the earth would just regenerate, you know what I'm saying, and be able to move on. We've created establishments, places that we live where if a bug comes in, it's like, oh my gosh, you don't belong here. Really?
Yeah.
Them bugs went there before we came. And I think that their mindset of how they created and built things had the earth in mind.
Yeah.
Simplicity.
Yeah.
And I think also with that, time and flexibility was also a part of this culture too, y'all. So they were able, like you were saying, to leave the marketplace and to listen to Jesus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We can't do that in this day and age.
I'm gonna get a little nerdy a little bit.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I'm just gonna ask you from a design perspective, right? Oh, see, just the timing of this. Lana comes in with a Silicon Valley reference. From a design perspective, Chris, and then we'll go to Lana's comment. Can you talk about sustainability and simplicity as it relates to design and interfaces and apps and all of that, and why some things work, and what like having one extra step will just make a person be like, no, I don't want to do it?
Yeah, I'll keep it real simple because I could just go on a rant. If it's too much, you don't need it. That's the way to put it. Yeah. So companies, startups, you name it, that try to build something, most times, because I think this is now why UX is still on the rise, and it's still climbing as far as, just understanding the user first and doing customer profiling and research and all of that, is because we think we know what they want. And so from the perspective of a company, we will create all of the bells and whistles and the features and all of the steps to get to the thing. And you guys might have seen this. And if you haven't, then there's a simple example of a beautifully, from an aerial view, mapped out sidewalk. And the sidewalk is angular. So it goes this way and it goes that way, right? So it's like this L shape to get to a particular destination. And they say, this is how, companies or people build it. But this is what people actually do. They cross straight through the grass to get to the thing. And so now there's this dirt path, and that is what the users are doing. And so it's what the problem is especially the more technologically advanced we get, we think that people are wanting all of the features and they're wanting all of this stuff. No, they don't. They just want to get the job done, whatever that job is.
Yeah.
And we get enamored with the new thing, the new tool, the new process. They don't care about your process. They don't care about your process. They want the result. I have to continue reminding myself of this as well, because I'm thinking that the thing that I've constructed and designed, like, they're going to be just as excited about the thing that I've created. They don't care about my curriculum. Can this make me money?
Outcomes. Classic example of sidewalk path.
Yeah.
And I know we're using a church reference and things for us to think through.
Right.
Is how we make people feel like they're less holy because they come to church at 12. Ask yourself, why do they come to church at 12? If church started at 11, 10:45, why do they come at 12?
We doing the most. They cutting out all the extra.
They're just like, nope.
They cutting out all the extra. And let's be honest, some of these programs that we still have is extra to them.
Yeah.
The things that we think are essential ain't really that essential. I'll tell you this. I think that even though we are pushing to get things to move back, to be the same, I think there will be a different movement that I'm praying will come out of this.
Yeah.
Don't burn down the current system. I probably used to be on that end. Just shut the whole thing and then change it from the inside. No, keep it going.
Yeah. In some ways, it's necessary so that you can see, so that you can be able to say, prime example of this is X.
Yeah.
How do we now? Because that's the application piece as we're looking at the things that we're wrestling with. And even before we get to the church community,
right?
When you look at your individual life, because that's really where the toughest change.
Yeah.
How can you create a path?
Yeah. And so I think that connecting this to grind culture, somehow we thought that doing more for God makes us either holier or closer to him. And when I say more, y'all, I'm talking about from a productivity perspective. Now, I'm literally talking about doing more. Like, every waking moment, you have to be doing something that is specifically that feels, or that could be perceived as sacred versus secular. What am I saying? And I think we talked about this. I think you talked about this from before too.
Yeah.
Because in our minds, washing the dishes is secular. But I think we forgot that we have the capacity to turn the common experiences into a sacred one. So my problem is we do the grind within a building, because somehow there's a disconnect with us not realizing that your daily life and your daily walk, the common practices that you have, can be transformed into something that is sacred.
Yeah.
Why? He did that with us.
Yeah.
This is sacred flesh. But what's inside of me?
Yeah.
Not just the power of the Holy Spirit, the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
Which makes me now this temple sacred. So I guess to kind of transition or trying to put it together, we have tried to force the entrepreneurial practice or mindset of you got to stay up late and wake up early, thinking that is how ministry, or thinking that is how, doing the work of Christ is supposed to be or supposed to look like. Not everybody was called to be a John the Baptist. Not even Jesus himself.
Wow. Sheesh.
One of the videos that really is helping me realize this too is the series Chosen.
Yeah.
Because Jesus ain't running around trying to just preach all day. He has a mission, but man, you know what a large part of that mission is? Building relationships.
Yep.
You can't build relationships if the grind culture is exclusively programmatic. Because everything that you mentioned earlier is about programs.
Mm-hmm.
And it is, I want to use the word dichotomy. It's a paradox because the way that we've built it, our programs have the relationships built in. So if I'm not a part of this program, I'm no longer a part of the relationships.
Ooh.
So because it's now entangled in one another, I have to be a part of the program, or I have to be a part of the program planning at least, because even that has some sort of working group relationship where I can connect with individuals. But what happens if I'm not in the program? That I'm not seen as productive. I'm not inclusive. I'm lazy. I darn near just left the church.
Wow.
Because everything that we have inside of the actual building is programmatic. How do we solve that? Well, listen, y'all, COVID helped us with the grind culture. And now that we are now all vaxxed, or that should be, right? Like it did. It was a hard reset.
Yeah.
Right. And we didn't get the picture.
Nope.
I know Miami didn't get the picture. No, Florida didn't get the picture.
Y'all just did what y'all wanted to.
We wanted to do regardless, right? So,
God, Florida was like,
Hey, I'm gonna shut up. But what I am saying is that this was a prime opportunity for us to sit down and to think about what is really, like, what are we really doing when it comes to congregational worship, when it comes to just worship in general, when it comes to evangelism, when it comes to discipleship, like all of those things, like what really matters. And you know what's going to happen for a lot of us? What we're going to do is this is just going to find a more efficient way to do church. That's all we're going to do. Like COVID is going to pass, and we're just going to be more timely, more punctual. Let me tell y'all, most of the churches now that are still virtual, that ended at 12, y'all are ended at 12:30 now, and y'all still don't even know why. It's the same problem. Y'all pushing 1 o'clock. When COVID first happened, and some of y'all was still finishing at 2 o'clock because y'all said we ain't changing none for nobody. And that's a whole nother conversation for another time. But what I'm saying is this. Jesus made it real simple. In the biblical times, it was really simple. Relationship building and productivity was simple.
Yep.
They have siestas. And they got days of breaks over in France somewhere. Like I just, the United States. Anyway, Lada says in Cali, there's a phrase that you hear often in the Bay Area, in Silicon Valley, that says people are either surviving or thriving. Our churches are surviving while Facebook, Twitter, Instagram are thriving. And it's the tech companies that set the values of our culture. For example, fitness, veganism, They're not a part of a health message, but more so a value of the high tech culture. They leverage these things in order so that they can produce more. I got to be healthy because if I'm not healthy, I won't be able to. Churches don't have significance. Church is now an industry. Lana, I think that when we chose to become a 501c3.
Uh-oh. I'm about to take you off the screen, bro.
Go ahead and just go ahead and
Take you off the screen.
go ahead and black me out. Like, what do we think? And then when we decided to put non-MBA,
yeah. Oh man.
we decided to put non-business people in an actual business entity that we've created church around.
I'm just going. Wow. Listen. Yo, so let's talk about the other side of this too.
Okay.
Talk about the other side of this. And Aaron brings up a very important point as well. But Rose, mega churches were onto something with the family groups.
Yeah.
And in the small groups, keeping people connected. Mm-hmm. Versus trying to have all these programs that need to be managed and supervised.
Yeah, we still treat our small groups as programs still. I don't think we get that.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that the mega churches will probably have, I don't know, maybe not, but have done more effectively is understanding that these are groups. Now, do these groups have curriculum and perhaps, well, curriculum is probably the best way to follow in order to lead this thing? Yeah, like that's likely. But you don't think of program when you think of these groups. We have a hard time trying to separate the two. Everything that we do eventually becomes productized and systematized. It becomes programmatic. And this is why the growth, who said it? I think it was Jason. Jason said it last night. When he said that, consider the ministry that Jesus had, so he was on this earth for 33 years. Ministry was only the first 3, but even in the amount of the amount of people that he touched, the lives that he healed, and the people that he preached to, at the end, when you look at Acts, he said it was only 120 people in an upper room. 120 out of thousands that he probably transformed. According to grind culture, he failed.
Yeah, if Jesus was an evangelist, we would have been like, nah, bro. You've been preaching hard for 3 years, and matter of fact, them people didn't get baptized. Them people didn't get brought into the church until after you left. Oh no, you waste.
The typical lifespan that investors look at for startups is 3 years. They want to see what have you done from the day that you decided to start tracking, day 1 all the way up until the end of year 3. And if they don't see those numbers, they are not going to invest in you. Jesus had a startup. And according to the numbers,
they didn't do so well. Let's talk about the other side of this. Aaron brings up an important point I think we need to consider as well.
So Aaron says, I am definitely a part of the grind culture. It's not for likes, though. It's for survival and to pay the bills. I work day in and day out. This is legitimate. If I'm not working, I'm studying or cleaning, helping someone with transportation issues, doing hair, listening to problems, giving advice, researching a topic, etc. I'm really busy, but I know I have to be still to hear the voice of God. I agree with this. I mean, whether I agree or not, this is a reality. So it ain't even. But I guess what I'm saying in agreement to is when I read what Aaron, when I'm reading what you said, I don't think of grind culture.
Yeah, I was gonna say that too.
Although to an extent it is, but
because I think even in the second sentence, Aaron, survival and to pay the bills.
Yeah, I go back to Lana's surviving, thriving. Okay, I'll put it this way. I think that the grind culture, and I could be very wrong, the grind culture is more proactive than reactive. And there are a lot of us who, you know, I'm not saying you're living a reactive life, Aaron. I'm not saying that at all.
No.
I think a lot of what we would maybe misappropriate grinding to is the things that have to be done.
Right.
And if we don't do it, then there are going to be negative outcomes or consequences, maybe for us or for our family. So we have to do these things versus what I'm understanding grind culture to be is I don't have to, but I want to.
Mhm.
I've got particular things that I need to, you know, that I want, that I desire to have. So in order to do that, I need to level up. And once again, what I'm not saying that those who don't have those things aren't leveling up, but what I am saying is it seems as if the grind culture is, in a sense, a choice. And I think the problem now is that we've turned that choice into something that's mandatory. Because if you're not doing this, if you're not in the culture, then what are you doing with your life? I could be wrong, P, but I think that, you know, because I feel, listen, Aaron, a lot of us are in the same boat. A lot of us, you know, so it's like being on the grind versus in the grind culture. I don't know. I don't want to make it too complicated, but
there's a lot of definitions. I'm looking at one now.
Okay.
And one concept of it is the idea of always being on and always being available. No matter where you are, what you're doing, you're hustling and you're reaching.
Okay. So
you know what? Sorry.
Okay. And you know what? I think that, so maybe there are different cultures in the grind culture, because there definitely is the hustle culture as well, you know, where you're always finding a way to make, not just make ends meet, but to generate some sort of income. Like there's some people, you know, P, you definitely one of them. I remember you wrote a post about just like back in college, there was always a hustle going on, but you weren't stressed out doing those hustles. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Where many of us have to create and find, you know, necessity is a mother of all invention. Like we have to find a way, until we will find hustles to just at least stay, you know, keeping your head above water, like, you know.
Yeah.
So
I think, you know, a good example of this is when we were kind of just in a tailspin in the middle of the pandemic, and people were like, I know it's a pandemic, but
if you ain't
you better be learning.
you doing?
You got free time. You better be learning the language. You better
stay out of my business.
Like that's grind culture right there.
Yeah.
Like you can't watch. Grind culture is like you can't watch TV.
Yeah.
You can't take a nap.
Yeah.
You can't say, nah, I'm not gonna work on this today. You can't go for a drive to get some time for yourself. Grind culture says no. Yeah. There is no time for that. You always got to be on. You always got to be killing it, because if you're not, you're never gonna reach your dreams and your goals.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Cerise and Oliver make some great points. Cerise says to Aaron, you know, she understands this. She also believes that we sometimes have to say no. You know what I'm realizing? When you get very specialized in what you do, and I hope I'm not now conflating like, you know, consultancy and entrepreneurship and all this, but let's go into that realm a little bit. When you really get niche into what you do, you don't sometimes say no. You say no to 99% of the stuff that comes.
You say no.
However, that's dealing with business. That's not dealing with having to do groceries and having to, you know, like there's a whole nother world outside of just work. So, you know,
you mentioned groceries, right?
Yeah.
Here's the thing that I recognize about people who get to a certain level of success, or however we deem success.
Yeah.
That is tough for me to consider as an African-American male. They don't do a lot of the stuff that I do. They don't put gas in their own car. They don't buy their own groceries. They don't cook their own meals. They don't clean their house. They don't do their laundry. So the time that you spend doing those things, they have jobbed it out to somebody else, and they have the extra 5-10 hours a week or whatever to apply toward X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, wait a minute. Y'all not telling the full story. Y'all only telling the partial story to make yourself look better, as Ali is saying, because it's metrics driven. Because so Aaron, like how would life be different, in terms of how you manage your week if you didn't have to cook a meal or you didn't have to drive anybody anywhere? So when we look at the metrics, right, people who are doing these amazing things, in the grind culture metrics, you know what we're not asking? What are they not doing, or what did they take off of their plate, or their responsibilities? And for us as people who are working on a relationship with God, we sacrifice sometimes. I'll just talk about me. Sometimes the waking up early and staying late is okay to do for the project, for the business, to write the sermon, to get the pamphlets ready, to do the gift bags or the outreach bags or the practice for the play, even church related stuff. It's okay for me to just do that grind for that. But I'll find it very difficult for me to wake up early or stay awake late to pray. Because I'm like Ali's saying, what's the metric on prayer though? Do I get the same if I post, yo, I woke up early at 6 a.m. and I was praying. Right. Versus I woke up early at 6 a.m. and I'm working on my dreams, and you should be up too. Where I'm gonna get those likes?
And y'all better believe you can't measure my spiritual. Yes, you can. That's not something. Yes, it is.
Jesus was like, I'm waking up in the morning, and sometimes I'm just not gonna be available.
Pray without ceasing. That's all the time. Like how you all right. See, it becomes like oxygen, or it becomes like breathing when you do it consistently, and then you no longer have to keep track of it. Y'all ever got to the point where you got meta with yourself and then you started becoming self-conscious? Now, half of y'all probably going to be like this for the next hour. Every time you blink, like, man, I blinked. I wonder how many times I blink. Like, I'm just blinking. Why am I'm tired of thinking about the fact that I blink because I always blink. Or you're conscious about your breathing.
Yeah.
But then there comes this point in time when you forget that these things happen, but they are happening. But it's the same with prayer. And this is why I had to get very intentional on marking it in my notification. Yo, listen, it's time to notification. Yo, listen, even if it's just for 5 minutes, notification until I no longer need the notifications.
Yeah.
See, this is where we should be using, and I'll just go back to it, the technology to drive us to do some of these things versus us using it to take care of, or to think it's gonna like solve some of these problems and these issues, when it comes to bringing the youth back. Grind culture. We're not gonna talk about that. So we're gonna talk about bringing back our generational. So Lyle says groups in churches are like sororities and fraternities.
Yeah,
it's a competitive market for recognition and community service. How can we create an environment in which listening to the voice of God is foundational in a culture where individuals have a limited amount of time to give? And this,
I think, Hazel's question too is they're
related. Okay. What is the alternative to always quote unquote grinding today? Can a more laid back approach get you to the level you want to? P.S. I'm not supporting the grind culture. Yeah. So I'm just gonna resonate. I think you might have an answer. I'm just gonna resonate. It's hard to try to say you're gonna break out of a mold when the mold, in a sense, was already kind of set for you.
Yeah.
Like we're in a society, in a culture where these things happen, and yet sometimes when we mention some of the people that we mentioned who are able to say no to certain things, they make up like the top 5% of our country, right? They got options, and so we tend to like look at these particular individuals as if they are, when the rest of us are kind of, to an extent, running the rat race to try to make ends meet. But you know what, y'all? I also see that there are people who are very sure in their faith, but they may not be as affluent either. And these are these prayer warriors. They don't got much, but they got peace. They don't got much, but they got wisdom. They don't got much, but they're happy.
Mm-hmm.
They got joy. And this is now for me, I'm just going to compound what Lana and Hazelden asked, because if I give up the grind culture, so to speak, am I subscribing myself to what many people already, vilify religion or Christianity for anyway, of having the poverty mindset? Like, do I have to be poor in order to be happy? I think we can say no, because I think we know people. I think we know believers who are affluent, who have that balance. Yet I will say that we create the environment. Well, let me back up. The time to do that is, to an extent, already there.
Mm-hmm.
We just need to remove the clutter. So let's go back, and Pierre, I want you to hit on that. So you talked about earlier where we do the congregational worships, and we may show up on Wednesday, we may show up on Saturday, or maybe Sunday, and we will do all of these things. But it's like, okay, so in a sense, we've got the time that's already blocked out.
We got the time.
Now it's, what are we doing during those times? Now, I think, Talana's question, that's just from a corporate perspective, right? So now how do we create that environment that's not corporate, but now closer to home, more familial, right? It's family, or maybe even just personally. I'm gonna let you talk on that, because I feel like I'm just talking mad long just now. But a lot of me feels as if we have these structures that are in place. It's just, what are we doing during those times that makes us feel as if we have to create an entirely different structure? And go ahead, Pete.
I was thinking, like, why can we sit on this for a couple of hours, just from a personal point of view, but I couldn't sit like in a church for a couple of hours. And part of the reason for me is the mediated interaction. I'm actually, in a mediated way, having a conversation with everybody. Yeah. So, there's comments that come in, we bring those comments, we go back and forth. The challenge in some of even how we do formalized education, the value is on not what we say to each other, but what is said to us. Mm-hmm. 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 So it's hard. We celebrate things being said to us, and not in a space where we have opportunities to say things to each other. And if our time is limited, only a limited amount of time to give, I've spent my entire week having people talk in my direction. And we're not going to go down the Sabbath school thing, Chris. I'm not trying to get your dander up today. Versus,
it's above me now.
Having the conversation with because this is what people really need. Yeah. They want to have conversations. Yeah. All right. So nearly every church I've been a part of has struggled with this in some way. And, however you interpret it is on you. Yeah. The idea of the worship space as a holy place. If I ruffle your feathers, pray for me. And big churches, small churches ever since I was a kid. Let's go back to me as a kid. All right. That's safe, right? As a kid, after the morning worship program, you had to leave what we in our terminology call the sanctuary. Mm-hmm. 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 You had to leave it because it was sacred. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And because it's sacred, you can't be there unless it is a designated time for us to be in the sacred space together. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I need y'all to get this just from an architectural standpoint. If this space is the largest capacity space in our building. And for my church, growing up, I think we could fit like $150 into our church, maybe, like if we packed them tight.
Yeah.
Our fellowship hall could not fit $150.
Right. Right.
So if you are leaving the worship space, the quote unquote sanctuary, you either had to go down stairs to the fellowship hall that could not contain everybody, or you had to go home because congregating in the hallway is a fire hazard, all of these different things.
Yeah.
So we are creating scenarios where we are counter community and relationship.
Yeah.
We are literally forcing people after a worship experience, whatever you want to call it, people are now open. They want to talk. There's stuff on their minds. There's stuff that they wrestling with. People need to pray or just kind of sit, take it all in. We're literally forcing people out of that space to the next program or initiative or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And in our personal lives, a way to practice this that's very difficult, practice silence. Some of us have the TV on or whatever we watch, and it's just, you're not even in the room. It's just on.
Yeah. White noise.
Practicing the silence helps you become more comfortable with, because in your mind is still going. When you practice silence, you're literally giving yourself an opportunity to slow down and to breathe and to disconnect. But for us, it's that 24/7, 365. I always have to feel like I need to be doing something. Chris, you can drop into the Caribbean culture dynamic of that as well.
I ain't gonna do that.
I know I know that has a thing to do with it too. But think about how much we foster connection and community versus just program.
Yeah.
And why, and if this is the only thing that we're celebrating, why we're tripling down on it, because that we celebrate is that's what people want to do.
Yeah. You know, that's such a great point. And I'm looking at, Lana and Hazel's questions again. And one of the things that stand out to me is when we talked about spiritual disciplines a couple months back, the way that we create this environment in which listening for God is foundational in a culture where individuals have a limited amount of time to give is, to an extent, I think you did touch on that, where time.
Yeah.
Our time will have to be reappropriated.
Yeah.
For the environment. It's just the people who become, and I want to be careful with this, but the people who become, who know how to manage their money, they do it, and and they look and they seek for wealth because they want to have more freedom and flexibility. They want to have more control over their time. Like, they don't want to have more money just for more money's sake. They're grinding not because they're trying to, and this is a huge thing when it comes now to just from an ethnological perspective of how white people grind and black people grind.
Yeah, it's
totally different
in there.
White people ain't grinding forever, y'all, and their grind looks different.
Listen, okay, you mentioned it. I'm gonna come back to it.
Okay,
right?
Okay.
And the thing about grind culture and all of that stuff, the axiology of our just the ethnic journeys.
Yeah.
One of the major things that is counter to grind culture, here's like a major key, y'all. Relationships.
First-hand experience.
So we can start at the top and go super spiritual.
Let's do it.
We see this in, I think it's Mark 1. Is it Mark 1, a great while before daybreak? Jesus rose up early in the morning.
35.
35, right? And then, Peter's like, yo, where you at? People have been looking for you. It is this connection relationship with his father that set the tone for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, you can even push it to say, it's because he spent time with his father that more people were actually looking for him.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You counter the grind culture by building relationships.
Yeah.
Case in point. So
Wow.
Pastor Greg Fontes, just installed a beacon light in Kansas City, Missouri.
Yep.
We watched the service today. Yeah, so he's a Worship and Word alum. No, he had a conversation with someone, and then he mentioned me. And the person said, he said, "Hey, I want you to meet Pierre." I get on the phone with that person. We're talking just about what we do in life and all of that stuff. Got a little churchy too. So we're just, this is a business professional phone call, right? At the end of the Zoom call, this person says, "Hey, do you know X, Y, and Z?" I was like, "I don't know who that is." They said, "Yeah, X, Y, and Z. This person is a investor. They invest in startup projects, but they also have a training program that they do where they teach leadership skills to entrepreneurs. And I think you'd be, someone they may want to consider to bring onto their team and teach leadership skills to entrepreneurs, right?"
Yeah.
And then she said, "I'm going to call that person and set up a meeting with y'all too." Now, I don't care how many Facebook ads.
Come on, P.
How many Facebook ads I make, how many emails I send out, how many, all of that stuff, thousands of dollars in ad spend.
Yeah.
Means nothing compared to someone who knows me reaching out on my behalf.
On your behalf. Yeah. Yeah.
None of the jobs that I have, I've gotten them because I just applied and just kind of waited. It's because I knew somebody.
Yeah.
And the idea of the grind culture is the lie that in order for you to make it, you have to work extremely hard by yourself in the darkness to bring it to fruition.
By yourself.
That is counter to our personal spirituality and faith. Yeah. Personal spirituality and faith says you cannot do it by yourself, because if you could, you wouldn't be in the situation that you're in. That's why you need to come to Jesus. Jesus covers you, life shifts. Yeah. Well, that should be the same principle for everything else that we're trying to do. Ooh, because you know this. It don't matter what you know as much as it matters who you know.
It's real. Yeah. What you do in the grind. That's why I brought up the ethnological differences. Yeah. Because once again, these are individuals, our counterparts, our cousins are individuals who they grind to build the thing, and then
they selling it.
Yeah. To do it again. So now we have this
startup culture.
Right. So there's a cycle versus, we've conflated hustling and grinding. And we think and we believe that's the biblical. It's by the sweat of your brow, right? By the sweat of your brow, right? I mean, that is part of, right? That is part of how sin, the consequences. I need to keep you productive, because if you're idle, we gonna lose. So I need you to now work for your stuff. When they get into the promised land, Leviticus, read it, y'all. Yeah. He's like, so what y'all make, like what y'all cultivating, I need the first year's fruit. When it says the first fruit, that he's literally saying what y'all are building and what y'all are grinding, y'all ain't even gonna touch it for the first year. Hand it over to me. Everything else is yours. And so, but even in this construct, the 50th, what is it, year? There's a year of Jubilee. There's always a reset, y'all. The problem with grind culture is there is never a reset. That's why I truly believe that the Sabbath is so important.
Yeah.
Because it gives us this reset to be able to just stop, pause, chill.
Yeah.
Reflect.
Yeah.
So we create this environment by first, and this is so important. This is so important, I think, for, going back to Lana and Hazel's question. Like I said, we have the structure. For a lot of people who are Sabbath keepers, the structure is already there for y'all. You have told your jobs and your boss, I'm not working on this day. You have told, like you have already set it up where you actually have a day. We're gonna get to that comment, by the way, people. We've already set it up. But it's what are you doing in that space? That's the problem. So I don't think that we have to try to find, because I mean, even just take the commandment for its face value. 6 days you're gonna work, 6 days you'll grind.
6 days you'll grind.
But the seventh,
yeah,
get your hands off of it. Because when day one come again,
you grind.
Some of
y'all gotta go to work.
Yeah,
Saturday night, like you.
And isn't that beautiful? Isn't that beautiful with what God understands? He's not saying I require of you every hour on the hour to whisper a prayer up to me and to connect with me verbally or audibly. He says, I know what I know what sin is done. I know how I've designed, how we have now countered that in the stuff that I'm going to have you. So I need you to tithe to me, not just your money, but your time.
Chris, man, thinking along those lines and to what Lana was saying, to what Hazel was saying as well. When was the last time, organizationally or even local church context or whatever, or especially in your families, where you did a time audit? And let's look at then our church religious experiences. Let's do the time audit.
Yeah.
Our people have a limited amount of time based on their life and all of that stuff. What are we doing with the time in which we have our people together?
Yeah.
Are we making the most? Are we building community and relationship, as Ali was saying, true connection and interaction? Are we actually building that and fostering that?
Yeah.
Or are we sending our people through the same grind that we are told to take a break from and breathe from during this time?
Yeah.
I tell people all the time, my Sabbath was Monday.
Listen.
The pastor, my Sabbath was Monday.
I'll get stoned now.
Because that was the day that I actually rested. Sabbath was tough. Meeting after conversation, after meeting, after this, that, and the other. And then Sunday, a little bit more of the same. So Monday, it's like, okay, I'm going to take Monday off. And the question is, are the things that are on our docket, are they necessary?
Yeah.
Are we just sustaining a history and culture or a feeling? Or let's Chris, let's push it even a little further. Sometimes there's this framework of packing so much into a Saturday to keep us from sinning.
Yeah. Pete, let me share my screen. Let me share my screen right quick.
Yeah, no doubt.
Because once again, as we're looking at how people
share my screen,
how people do this thing.
Yeah.
Now I don't care what you
got
think
it.
about. Yeah. Got it. I don't care what you think about the man, but this is Benjamin Franklin's daily routine. I don't know if any of y'all have seen this before, but look at how he time blocks. From 5 a.m. to 7. It says the morning question, what shall I do this day? Rise, wash, address powerful goodness, contrive day's business, and take the resolution of the day, prosecute and present study and breakfast. I don't know that. Maybe he means read the newspaper. The point is, he's doing all of this. I think I remember one time Eric Thomas gave an example of Warren Buffett and what he does for like the first 4 hours or something like that.
Yeah.
He's reading journals, like Wall Street journals. Like he's just doing reading, sharpening the axe. And we when we talk about grind culture, we're up and we're out and ready to go. Listen, my man is just taking at least the first 3 hours. Has nothing to do with work, y'all. This is not even spiritual. And this is why I brought this up. This is a secular individual with a secular routine. However, a lot of this, when you look at it, this got some spiritual connotations.
Oh, definitely.
Address powerful goodness. Like, all right, 8, 9, 10, 11, 4 blocks. He says, I'm working. And then he takes next hour and says he reads or overlooks his accounts and he eats. Right here it says dine. Goes back for the last 4 blocks, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then he works. And then after that, Look at this. From 6 to 9, he puts things in their places. He eats, so it's supper, music, or diversion, escape. Hey, listen.
Yeah, yeah.
Netflix or conversation, relationship. And then he examines the day. 9 o'clock, he done. What is he asking at this time? Evening question. What good have I done today? So what shall I do? And what did I really do? What good? Not even what good have I done? And then my man is sleeping all the way from 10 to 5.
Okay, so
just put that there. You want me to keep this up or?
I'm gonna pull it down because Volvo making me feel like I need to grind.
That's the other thing too. I saw HBO Max and all that. I was like, listen,
Volvo making me grind about the car. That's what they try to do. You know what? I love the outline. Here's my challenge with it.
Yeah.
When Ben Franklin is like, okay, by 9 o'clock, you need to be settled and chilled and thinking about your next day. Man, I'm trying to watch TV. I'm trying to watch my movies.
How to Get Away. all of the ABC. Listen, all of the prime time shows come on at 10.
I'm trying to watch. Yeah, you trying to. And it's there is time. We realize there is time to do the things, even if we have an extensive schedule.
There is.
It now comes down to what are my priorities? Because I tell myself, because I've worked. Yeah, if you can drop the link to that, Chris. I tell myself, because I've worked so hard, I deserve to reward myself from the time my kids go to bed, which is about 9 o'clock, from 9 o'clock until midnight. I'm gonna reward myself. So I'm gonna watch basketball. I'm gonna watch the West Coast game.
Yeah.
That's oh my goodness. I stayed up awake Thursday until like 1:30 in the morning, knowing that I had to get up and I had to work with a client early. But I was like, I've been working hard all week.
You deserve it.
Late game. I'm gonna eat some snacks late. I'm gonna watch Netflix. The grind, my reward for the grind is, I mean, let's call it what it is. Mismanagement of time and disregard of healthy practices. That's my reward.
Yeah. But we don't like to see it like that. We don't want to see it like that.
No,
I think I use a worshiping word.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. You dropped it in there. Life hacker is in there.
Yeah, there's time. There is time, and I think that even for individuals, and let me put it this way. You might even be in a position, because I know people like this, like you might even be in a position where you have to go. You're working more than one job.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time you actually like get home, it's 10. Or you might even have kids too.
Yeah, that's true.
And by the time it's like time for you.
Yeah.
10, 11. And you can get kind of sucked into the trap of, for a lot of us, it's, well, you know what? like self-care is it's not a part of the equation. So then what ends up happening is, by the time you shut down because you don't have time, and you just wake up and do the same routine over and over and over again, you don't have time for yourself. It's just funny how your body will make time for you.
Oh yeah. So Reese, I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about me. So
and then your body does find time. Your body does force you to take out those sick days.
Yeah. Your
body does force you to do those things because now your wellness is what's most important above everything else. And so here's the challenge. And this is where I definitely resonate with individuals who feel as if they don't have the time. And so they have to, in a sense, grind or continue to be on the grind almost by force. Yeah. I want to suggest to you that there still is time.
Yeah.
You just might have to be not even a little, but a lot more intentional on the minutes that culminate, that collect. Because I'm at this space now where if we continue to say we don't have time, then you won't have time. Versus people who, I think we're in a different level now too, where we see and understand people who are both serial entrepreneurs and they have a 9 to 5 and they work in nonprofits and They shut down at a certain time. Like they are stress free.
Listen, man, I was having a conversation with the lady. Runs multiple businesses.
Mhm.
Completely successful, man.
Yeah.
She was like, "Oh yeah, I go to bed at 9:00." When she said it, I was like, I don't know if I want it if it means I gotta go to bed at 9:00.
Yeah.
Because I want to watch TV.
Yeah. Yeah.
In terms of that's you raise some very, very important points in the choice factor.
Mm-hmm.
And when we look at the narrative of Jesus, it is what things are you we make it seem like the sacrifice piece. Let's take rich young ruler, right?
Yeah.
Sell all you have and give to the poor.
Mm-hmm.
And it says he was like, that's messed up. The textual note, he was extremely rich.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, see, that's why da 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 da. What if a guy was like, all right, cool, here's your sacrifice. For the rest of the year, I need you to go to bed at 9:30. I don't need you to do nothing else. Just for the rest of the year, I need you in order for you to get to the spot where I'm trying to move you to, I need you to go to bed at 9:30. I'm like,
forever. But Dr. Julian Johnson has that story. Remember he said his wife.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Was like, listen, you can knock out this doctorate, but you have to give up them games.
You got
football. Like he had to give up.
I remember.
Games. And he did. And he killed it. Like he crushed it. I like what Holly says here. I love that she says, here's another perspective. Not grinding is an option to help the body absorb all the detrimental stress we put ourselves through because I haven't leaned on God. Yes, our bodies will make us lie down. The pastures won't be green.
Oh,
yeah.
We didn't have time. I know we're about to end this, and so many great comments coming in to talk about how that culture is propped up to keep us from wrestling with. Remember when we spent like a month on dragons, and we're talking about mental health and spirituality.
Yeah.
That, if we're honest, I can just speak for me. Sometimes I want to work hard so that I don't have to think about certain things.
Yeah.
I want to
sweat your brow.
5 a.m. till I fall asleep.
Yeah.
So I don't have to think about, oh man, like you need to reframe how you do that or process this, or why did you respond that way when that person sent you that email? What was that really triggering? Like, who do you need to apologize to or have a conversation with? No. I'm not trying to think about that because I'm grinding.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna grind.
Yeah.
So I don't have to be in that uncomfortable place of dealing with what's actually going on with me.
The 7 types of rest we also covered.
Yeah, we talked about that too.
And it's once again, it's important. That question, Lana and Hazel's question really sticks out, I think, for me in everything that's still being written, because it is true. Like, so what do we do? How do we create this culture? Rose says the reason why War Room, if y'all haven't seen War Room, I think one of the, I think she is the protagonist, Priscilla Shire, who's in the movie. The reason why War Room was such a big hit was because it practices silence.
Yep.
The reason why most counselors recommend having difficult conversations coupled with a bath is because it forces us to stop and focus on nothing else. Listen here. So Teresa and Holly both say, because she says, I tell myself TV time is my self-care. And then Holly says, me too, and watching till the wee hours of the morning. Hey, listen, Benjamin Franklin did too. He says diversion. Or conversation. And the thing is, and he gave himself, and I'm not saying this is the golden standard, but time blocking is something that is super important if we feel as if we are either kind of just going through the motions, or if we feel like we don't have time. That's one of the best ways to quantify this thing. I will say this, after reading Delia, she says, so packing too much in a Saturday to keep from sinning. Yeah. Please, I'm laughing so hard because that is so true. COVID brought new perspectives for us on true worship. If only they stayed, Delia. If
Yeah.
only they stayed.
Well,
So I will read this, because when we're
Yeah.
talking about this,
we'll close on this, Chris.
yeah, creating the environment, I think these are some of the things that we can help to really solidify. How do we remove all of the busy work? And none of the stuff that I'm going to read to you has anything to do with a program, so to speak. You can
Mhm.
build programs around these things, but just take what I'm going to say, at least right now, just for what it is, and
Yeah.
to see how you can shape the environments, not just at church, but in your own home, or your own personal life. And this is just, and I think we've gone through this before, but I'm going to do it again. Spiritual disciplines. If you create environments that have the spiritual disciplines at its root or at its foundation, or at least just as a focus, then I truly believe that it starts to shift your activity, how much you're doing, maybe how little you're doing. So the first one here is meditation. Creating an environment of meditation. Another one is prayer. And I'm not saying to use all 12 of these in one word, because then you're going to have the same, but just think about, maybe you just have an environment where it's only for meditation or for prayer. Fasting is number 3. Simplicity, number 4. Listen, we have broken that. We are undisciplined when it comes to simplicity, y'all. We crowd out what God could possibly be telling us because everything needs to be complicated or just packed in to a certain amount of time. Fellowship. We talked about relationships and community. Journaling. Chastity. Stewardship. Submission/obedience. Study. Evangelism. Contemplation. Confession. Solitude. Gratitude. Self-examination. Silence. Celebration. I admit to you that one of the reasons why some of our environments are toxic is because it's not that we have a lack of these spiritual disciplines, it's not balanced.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in an environment where all you do is celebrate, but you ain't self-examining what you celebrating for. See, balance, y'all. Jesus says, I think that, look at that. He says, I think that balance is also a key to all of this. God worked consistently for 6 days and rested for an entire day. He also paced himself. He didn't create everything in one day, even though he could. We do not have, or we have to not overcomplicate everything and practice a balanced life. Yes, pray, work, rest, play, etc. Yeah, I resonate with that.
Yeah.
Resonate with that.
Yeah, listen, we hung out, we chatted today. In some ways we all wrestle with this in some form or fashion. Even our pursuit and religious practices can fall victim to and be driven by grind culture.
Mm-hmm.
And the truth is, you only really hear the voice of God when you slow down.
And when you slow down, you're able to.
You already know.
Y'all already know.
Matter of fact, that's why it makes it so difficult for us sometimes. One of the biggest antidotes to the grind culture is going to pray.